Ladies and gentlemen, this is Bridges and Tunnels. Any public speakers?
Just Mr. Bowden.
If you've been paying attention to my emails, you know what I'm going to say. And what I'm going to say is I've requested to meet with somebody from traffic engineering at the Whitestone Bridge because the lines are illegal. Nobody has met with me, which leaves me no option to say that you need a new president at Bridges and Tunnels. And I know Cedric a lot of years, and if he's read my emails, he knew I was going to say this today. The law is the law. There's a yellow line on the left if there's an obstruction, and a plastic pole is an obstruction. You want me to follow the law? I want you to follow the law. You're killing people. I'm not killing anybody when I break the law. You are. Now, what does it take to send somebody down there and say, you can't cross this? Whether it's plastic and you know you can cross it, but the driver doesn't know. We're stupid. And the older I get, the stupider I get. If you put up a plastic pole, I don't know if it's plastic or concrete, because downstairs in front of this building, you have both, concrete and plastic. And how do I know which is which? If you put up a pole, I'm not supposed to cross it. And they're knocked over because people... Now, which is it? I should behave myself? Why? I'm not killing anybody, you are. Either fix it and put the correct line, which is yellow on the left, or get off the board and let somebody else do the job. It's time. I've done this for too long.
Thank you, Mr. Bowden. Anybody else?
No changes?
All right. We have minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity to read them? On the motion to approve, all those in favor? Contrary minded? Done. Do you have a report? Mr. Fulton.
Couple of quick statements. So back in May, we had a historic event. It's been predicted for a couple years now, but we actually had a million travelers on May 11th, which is an amazing milestone, and it's something that, given what's happening in the trends of traffic, we would expect to continue. We know that the economy right now is driving a lot of the increase in traffic. You'll hear about it later in staff's report, but clearly, thank goodness. I mean, given the increase in traffic, the ORT environment is facilitating at least our ability to move traffic through our environment, and hence reducing congestions. So it's a momentous occasion. We're looking forward to continued traffic growth. And at this point, what I'll do is I'll turn it over to Dan, who'll take us through the operations report.
Thank you, President Fulton. The report on operations begins on page 18. The following is a summary of traffic levels compared to the previous year. Total paid traffic increased by 4.6% in April. Preliminary total paid traffic increased by 5.7% in May. April was the 7th consecutive month of year-over-year improvements in B&T's collision rate, which Eric will go through. Also, for recent operational activity during the month of May, TBTA participated in Click It or Ticket, an initiative to promote seatbelt use in and around our facilities. From May 18th to June 3rd, Bridge and Tunnel offices increased the number of seatbelt summonses issued by over 206%. Unless there are any questions, this ends the report on operations.
Questions? Ms. Vanderpool.
Cedric, with due respect, I am not looking forward to more traffic growth, even though I fully appreciate the significant support that we receive from this particular agency, or transit receives from this agency. But it sparked a question, which is there any way to capture the modal shift from potential transit users into their vehicles?
Difficult, but it aligns with questions we often ponder. Where are they coming from, and why are they coming? And so as we think about customer service surveys, both of our Easy Pass customers largely now, and the tolls by mail customers, these are some of the things that we're interested in. Where are you coming from? Where were you before? Part of it clearly is the economy, I would think, but I think it's also, we believe it's ease of travel across the facilities, which could serve as an inducement for people to decide that they would want to get in their car where ordinarily they might not have wanted to get in their car. I'm a firm believer that multimodal is necessary. Without the other modes of travel, the bridges and tunnels can't work. They have to work together, and there has to be a balance. And so I'm very interested in knowing more about that. And I'll work with Andy and his team to see if we can better understand it. We want to make sure we have the right balance of folks traveling around the city.
Norman.
Yes, Cedric. Historically, I've been on the board quite a while, and they used to attribute quite a bit of the growth in traffic over the bridges to the price of fuel. You didn't mention that in your discourse there. I don't think that means you necessarily discount it, but have you ever tracked these spreadsheets against the price of fuel and tried to take that out of the equation? And plus, in the previous meeting, they were talking about this as a nationwide trend, the reduction in transit use. And I believe it's also a nationwide trend of more people driving. But if you tried to pull those sort of factors out and see if there's a way to look at our usage separately from that?
Yes, forever. As long as I've been in this business, we've always looked at correlation between gas prices and automobile usage. And in fact, we have boatloads of data that we've tended not to talk about in these sessions. We do have it, particularly with the gas prices being so low. So we knew coming out of the years 15, 16, when traffic was particularly low, that low gas prices could become an inducement for people to drive, and that's what we have talked about. As we're now beginning to see gas prices go up, it will be interesting to see what driver behavior is. But again, it does relate to other modes of travel that are available to people, and the choice, because time counts. People value their time. When it's all said and done, it becomes one of the leading indicators as to the choice that people make about how they're going to travel, and each one of us do it. And so I think that the elasticity associated with gas has always been something that we've tried to incorporate into forecasts of what travel or what traffic is going to be. When we were approaching $4 a gallon, I think we were beginning to see some pressure down on the choice to drive. At $3, my sense is people will continue to drive. But we do have the numbers if you're interested in some of the historic trends. We can provide that.
Ira?
Yeah, at the transit meeting also, this was not, well, the decrease in transit ridership was discussed, but it wasn't discussed the impact of Uber and Lyft, which has been in the papers, and the like, and taxis. If you look at their pricing, it's actually competitive with transit. I'm not going to say it's as good as transit, but a lot of people use it. Do we have any way of tracking how often an Uber or Lyft comes over as opposed to just a passenger vehicle? Can we track that? Do we track that at all?
I'll get back to you on that. We know accounts, and so we can take a look at it. At the same time, we're going to be increase our conversations with the TLC to understand a little bit more about what's going on in their world to help us as we're managing ours as well.
Anyone else? Okay. Safety. Okay.
Safety report begins on page 31. The following are highlights of performance indicators. Customer safety metrics indicate some significant improvements. 12-month average collision rate has decreased for 7 consecutive months. For the 12 months through April 2018, the total collision rate was 7% better than the previous 12 months. The injury collision rate for the most recent 12 months is unchanged from the previous 24-month average. Employee and contractor safety metrics are positive. Both employee accident reports and lost time injury rates have improved in the most recent 12 months compared to the previous 12 months. And the construction injury rate for the past 12 months is 10% better than the previous 12 months and 34% better than the 12 months before that. And that concludes my safety report.
Yes, hello. The April 2018 report on cashless tolling begins on page 37. April highlights are on pages 38 and 39 and include our overall EasyPass market share, which is at 94.4%, up 6.5% from the year before. Our revenue collection rates by facility through April 2018 are shown on table 6 on page 42. In total, the combined collection rate for all facilities that went live through October is 101.6%. Our customer outreach efforts continue to yield positive results. An important goal of these efforts is to sign up customers for mobile alerts so they can be notified if their EasyPass balance is low and of other important account issues. More than 56,000 customers have enrolled in mobile alerts program since March, which is an 18% increase. This concludes the report on cashless tolling.
I notice if you will look at page 40 that there has been a decline in the amount of tolls by mail. I assume that that is coextensive with the increase in the use of EasyPass.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
Do we have a number on the amount of non-pays?
Of what?
Non-pays, where we have issued a mail request, a second mail request, a third, and they haven't paid at all.
We do have a table that has the violation statistics as well. I believe page, I'll just go there. Page 43. So we have the toll processing metrics, wherein we do have by tolls by mail program and EasyPass, and you have the number of notices that are issued. What is not included there is the violation rate of payment, which we do have, but it's not on the table. So we do have them by the programs, by EasyPass program and by the tolls by mail program.
At a convenient time, could you put together some form of an update which would show the committee the extent to which matters have gone past the violation stage to some regulatory or enforcement entity, and they have levied fines and the like, so that we know what the other end of it is like?
Okay, we'll do that.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Jones.
Yeah, along that same line, it was my understanding that after a certain number of violations, a license suspension occurred?
Yes.
I was told also that there was an attempt to get other states to buy into that. Is that going anywhere?
Yes. Peg, do you have an update on those?
Yes, Commissioner. We have reached an agreement for DMV reciprocity with the state of Massachusetts. In Massachusetts, they do not suspend vehicle registrations for toll evasion. They put a registration hold on it. I believe Massachusetts will soon be sending registrations of New York owners who violate for their facilities to our DMV. And sometime in the fall, as we work out the logistics through our customer service center, the New York toll agencies will be doing the same.
And what about Connecticut and New Jersey?
Connecticut does not have tolls at this time, and so they don't have the statutory power to suspend registrations for toll evasion. The same thing is true for New Jersey. New Jersey's Attorney General's office has taken the position they don't have the power to enter into reciprocity agreements for toll evasion, although New Jersey does, of course, impose tolls. We are in preliminary discussions with the state of Pennsylvania for entering into a comparable reciprocity agreement. I believe Pennsylvania has been working with Delaware, so once they have a reciprocity agreement, we can reach out to both states to enter into agreements of our own.
I'm just going to ask the same question. What does New Jersey do to New York residents who don't pay New Jersey tolls?
They do what we do for New Jersey residents. We impose violation fees. They have the right to sue our residents. We sue their residents for failure to pay. But it's a much less effective enforcement mechanism than suspending registration.
Of course.
New Jersey would need to enact a statute, as New York has done,
right,
to authorize its motor vehicle commission to enter into reciprocity agreements.
Okay. I know this is not the agency generally does. Have we gone to the legislatures of both New Jersey and Connecticut to see if we could get legislation passed?
We have not. In Connecticut, in particular, is a heavy lift because you don't have reciprocity unless both states are doing it. And I know there was a push in Connecticut this summer to enact legislation imposing tolls, which has failed at least so far. With New Jersey, we've been working primarily through their Department of Motor Vehicles Commission, the comparable to DMV, rather than approaching the legislature directly.
I think, David, and I would, because, listen, TBTA is not going to end up doing that. The only way that's going to work is if the governor's office decides this is an issue important enough to go to the governor's office in New Jersey and work this out. So, the MTA board may want to consider a recommendation to our governor's office to make that happen, because then at least we're on record. It's not fair to them. They're not going to do it, okay? We have to do it. We have to say this issue is important enough to ask our governor's office to go to their governor's office and say, let's solve this problem, because it goes both ways. It's our drivers there and their drivers here, and both states are losing money from violators, and so that's what I would recommend is that we talk to the chairman about doing something in that regard.
Let me ask a question. Under the tollless mechanism you have in place, can that equipment read a license plate to determine whether there are outstanding infractions or violations on the license?
What we have done, Commissioner, in connection with vehicles whose registrations have been suspended for toll evasion, we develop hot lists, which include toll evaders whose registrations have been suspended by TBTA, the Port Authority, and the Thruway. And with our license plate readers, both the fixed readers on the gantries and the mobile readers in our patrol vehicles, we stop the driver, summons them, and tow their car. Because it's illegal to drive in New York State with a suspended registration. It is a remarkably effective enforcement mechanism. I would say about between 60 and 65% of the vehicles whose registrations have been stopped, summoned, and towed have cleared their registration suspensions by paying their tolls and a portion of their outstanding violation fees.
So let me ask you this question. Sam Smith lives in New Jersey. He has had a record of many violations, has done nothing about it. we have no mechanism to suspend him. Can the equipment be technologically programmed that should Sam cross another bridge, he would be, or the local police officer would be programmed to stop that car?
Well, what we do for out-of-state vehicles, we issue exclusion orders under one of our existing regulations where they tell them if they don't clear their tolls and violation fees within 30 days, they're excluded from our facilities. In that case, however, at least for the first-time offenders, we stop them and summons them, but we don't tow them yet. We're undertaking the legal research to determine that we can do so for multiple offenders because we believe that towing the vehicle is more effective than
Then why
summoning
aren't
them.
we doing it now?
We're in the process of doing it.
Soon, I hope.
Yes.
The problem is, that is a violation of a TBTA regulation. It is not a violation of state law, correct?
Correct.
And that's the problem.
Well, but
I mean, I'm not arguing you
Yes.
don't have the authority,
Yes.
but it's not as clear cut as those cars which are registered in New York or registered in some other state, which are a violation of that state law.
And the summons for violating the vehicle and traffic law for driving without a registration is returnable in criminal court.
Right.
Which is, even then, a
Right.
heavier method of enforcement.
Yeah.
And violations of our regulations are not.
Or not, right. Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You could today program the electronics so that if Sam has these accumulated violations and he is a New Jersey driver with all of these violations, that his car would be stopped and towed. Is that correct?
Well, currently we do not stop and tow simply for prior violations. In the past, we've only issued summonses for failure to pay the toll, for a failure to pay that is observed by the officer.
But what is passed is prologue. And what I'm advocating to you is to take a look at if this as the next step, when Sam comes across and he's gotten X number of violations, which you would administratively determine, he's going to get towed.
We would have to determine that we have a legal basis for doing that, Commissioner.
Will you
but we
check that?
absolutely will look into that, yes.
Will you check that?
Yes,
And can you report back at a future meeting?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Greenberg.
One last, what does the Port Authority do? Or what do...
The Port Authority is in a different position. They can, in fact, except for at their one cashless tolling facility, if, for example, you're going through one of their Easy Pass only lanes without an Easy Pass tag, they are witnessing your violation. So they have their Port Authority officers stationed in the lanes to stop, summons you, and sometimes charge you criminally. If you are on our facility without an Easy Pass tag, at that time you are not a violator, you are a customer under the Tolls by Mail program.
But you still are violating our regulations, right?
Not at that time until you fail to pay your toll bill.
No, but if you do have an accumulated record of non-payment, isn't that a violation of our regulations?
No.
Don't we need to amend the regulations?
Sir, well, if we determine we can stop, summons them, and toll them without doing so, then we won't need to. But if we can't, that is one area we will look at.
Would you please take a look at that? Okay. Right.
Yes.
So let's do it.
Sir, and we do have them doing it, jumping the
Well done,
turnstile in their
David.
Mercedes.
All right. Financial report.
The financial report for April begins on page 45. We are comparing results against the adopted budget. Total revenue year-to-date in April was $602.9 million, which is 3.2% or $18.5 million better than budget. Traffic year-to-date in April was 98.7 million crossings, up against budget by 4.3%. Preliminary numbers for May indicate that traffic is at 28.2 million vehicles, or 6.1% greater than forecast. Preliminary toll revenue for May is 173 million, which is 7.4 million, or 4.5% above budget. Total expenses were 159.2 million through April, which is about 22.8 million, or 12.5% lower than planned. Our support to mass transit was 354.5 million in April, which is 47.6 million, or 15.5% better than planned. This concludes the financial report for April. Thank
Questions?
So basically, TBTA is upholding the financial plan of the MTA at the moment. Because almost all the other entities, to some degree, are, I don't want to say losing money, not meeting budget is a better way to put it. And TBTA is covering their deficits.
That's why we like Trump.
That was the intention.
I understand. I'm not arguing the point. I'm just making a statement of fact. Understand.
Capital program.
Report on the capital program begins on page 58. In May, B&T awarded 13 commitments totaling $41.4 million. The most significant commitment made in May was a $30.9 million design build rehabilitation of the Harlem River lift span, electrical and mechanical systems at the RFK Bridge. In May, there was one major completion for the Queens Midtown Tunnel Superstorm Sandy restoration and associated work at a value of $326.4 million. This project was completed 11 months ahead of its originally scheduled completion date. B&T is on track to meet our 2018 completion goals of $1.43 billion in planned completions. So far, with an aggregate of 4 completions achieved through May, totaling $746 million, which is 52% of the 2018 planned completions. Unless there are any questions, that concludes the report.
Questions? Procurements.
Procurement start on page 66. There are no ratifications. There is one non-competitive amendment with the New York State Department of Transportation for the reconstruction and maintenance of an approach ramp to the RFK Bridge. As background, in July of 2017, the board authorized $23 million for this project based on the estimate. Proposals have now been received by the DOT, and additional funding in the amount of $2.43 million is required. Next, there's a request to use the RFP process to declare competitive bidding to be impractical in order to pre-qualify firms for miscellaneous construction services on an as-needed basis at various authority facilities. There is no funding committed at this time. There are 3 additional competitive procurement actions. There is the award of a competitively solicited personal service contract for the construction, administration, and inspection services for Project TN49, the replacement of the roadway deck and the suspended spans at the Throgs Neck Bridge, in the negotiated amount of $19.7 million. There's a modification to a personal service contract to add construction support services for Project TN49 in the negotiated amount of $7.98 million. Lastly, there's a small business mentoring program modification associated with curtain wall rehabilitation at the RFK Bridge in the negotiated amount of $492,000. The total amount committed for these actions is $30.6 million. Unless there are any questions, these procurements are described in detail in the closed staff summaries.
Let me ask you this question. The outfit called Lero Engineering was about $1.5 million less than this. Now, does Lero have lesser qualifications in your view than Greenman Peterson?
Well, I think the 2 comments I would have is that it is a best value selection, right? So it's technical and cost. But in the selection committee, I think felt that the Lero underestimated the level of effort required for the project. So it really comes down to hours and how many hours they put forth on the contract. So I don't think it was an apples to apples comparison.
Let me see if I understand what you said. So Lero has a lower cost, but it is second to Greenman because it has lower hours? I don't understand that.
Is your question regarding the cost of the project?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the main reason they were lower was that they had less hours. So the selection committee didn't feel that they adequately addressed the level of effort that was required to perform the services that were needed for the project.
So is the answer to that question that because they had lesser hours, there was therefore lesser effort or with a lesser result? Is that the conclusion?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? On the motion to approve, all those in favor? Contrary minded? Done. Do I have anything else? I think that's it. On the motion to adjourn, all those in favor? Aye. Done. Thank you.